Good morning everyone. Welcome back to the English class. In the previous class, we read the story of a parrot who wouldn't talk. Today, we'll see a few exercises from the same chapter. So I suggest you, before we move on to the exercise part, read the story once again and then come back. So let's see the first section of questions. The first question is, find phrases or sentences from the story to correct the false statements. One has been done for you. So you can see a table. The left column of the table has some false statements given there, and you have to find out the true statements from the sentences given in the story. So one is already given there. The first one, the parrot was happy in its cage, which is a false statement. So the true sentence or phrase from the story is, the unfortunate parakeet who glared maliciously at everyone. So like this, let's find out sentences or phrases from the story corresponding to these false statements. So the second question, the caged parrot loved to talk. It's a false statement. In the story, it is mentioned, but our parrot refused to talk. Now let's see the third one. The bird loved Aunt Ruby. It's a false statement. In the story, it is mentioned, but the bird took an instant dislike to my aunt. Now the fourth one, the narrator also ate chilies. It seemed quite happy to receive green chilies or gave me an opportunity to consume a couple of mangoes. So this is a sentence or phrase given in the story. It says that the narrator loved to give the parrot green chilies and he himself loved to eat mangoes while sharing the mangoes with the parrot. Now let's see the next one. Grandfather left the cage open. That's a false statement. I gave the parrot its lunch and then deliberately left the cage door open. This is a sentence from the story. So it was the narrator who left the cage open. And the last one. The bird winged its way to the guava orchard. Was it a guava orchard? No, it was a mango orchard. So in the story, it says the bird was winging its way to the mango orchard. So I hope you're clear with these questions. Let's move on to the next section. Read these sentences and answer the questions that follow. And the question number 1 is, I see your aunt's parrot has escaped. A. Who said these words and to whom? So who said these words? The narrator's grandfather said these words to the narrator. Let's see the next one. How did the parrot escape? The parrot escaped as the narrator had left the door of its cage deliberately open. Now question C. What did the other person reply to this? The narrator replied that the door of the cage was quite loose. He added that they probably wouldn't see the parrot again. Now, let's move on to the next question. He must have missed me. Who is he here and who is me? Here, he refers to the parrot and me refers to Aunt Ruby. Now, question B. Do you think he actually missed the speaker? Give reasons for your answer. No. He or the parrot did not miss the speaker. We know this because he flew out of her reach and, perching on the nearest rose bush, glared at her and screamed insults at her. Now let's see question C. Who do you think he actually missed? Give reasons for your answer. So he, which means the parrot, missed the narrator and the green chilies, tomatoes and mangoes it would get from the narrator. Now, the third question. You are no beauty, can't talk, can't sing, can't dance. When did the parrot finally say these words? The parrot finally said these words when it returned after escaping from its cage. Aunt Ruby was happy to think that the parrot returned because it was missing her, but when she reached out to the parrot, it flew out of her reach and, perching on the nearest rose bush, shrieked these words of insult. After that, it often came to the garden and veranda, and whenever it saw Aunt Ruby, called out these words to her. Now let's see the next question. Why do you think the parrot said these words? The parrot said these words because it had taken an instant dislike to Aunt Ruby. Clear? Now, question C. What effect did these words have on Aunt Ruby? Aunt Ruby was very upset. She went ruby red and dashed indoors. Let's see the next section of exercise. Section C. Answer these questions with your elbow partner. Question number 1. Give 2 examples from the story to show that parrots are both intelligent and great mimics. Now, the parrot, bought by Aunt Ruby, was both intelligent and a great mimic. When Aunt Ruby tried to teach it to talk, it stubbornly refused to do so. She tried to befriend the bird, but it would back away in anger and once even knocked the spectacles off her nose. Aunt Ruby then became hostile to the bird and would taunt the parrot with words like can't talk, can't sing, can't dance. Then the bird escaped from the cage, but it had the intelligence to know it could get green chilies and mango from the narrator and so returned and sat on the veranda. It looked expectantly at the boy who shared his mango with it. As soon as it saw Aunt Ruby emerge, it flew off to a safe perch and jeered at her in her own voice. You're no beauty, can't talk, can't sing, can't dance. The parrot had learned to talk and was mimicking Aunt Ruby perfectly. Clear? Let's see the second question. How were parrots trained to talk? Parrots were trained to talk over a period of time by some member of the family. Question 3. Which birds did the birdcatcher sell? The birdcatcher sold caged birds ranging from colorful budgeriggers to chirpy little munias, parrots, and even common sparrows that had been dabbed with paint and passed off as some exotic species. Let's see the next question. Question 4. What was passed off as exotic birds? Why do you think the bird catchers did this? Common sparrows were passed off as exotic birds. The bird catcher did this for money, as people would buy an exotic bird but no one would buy a sparrow. Let's see the next one. What did the parrot do to show its dislike for Aunt Ruby? The parrot showed its dislike of Aunt Ruby by backing away when she came near the cage, glaring angrily at her and once lunging suddenly and knocking her spectacles off her nose. Let's see the next question. How did the parrot behave with the author? What does this tell us about the author's character? The parrot behaved very affectionately with the author and trusted him. The author fed the parrot chilies, tomatoes, and mango slices. The bird enjoyed taking these delicacies from the boy's hands. This tells us that the narrator was kind-hearted and loved to take care of the bird. He did not like to see it in a cage and so released it. This shows his compassionate nature. Now let's see question 7. Who freed the bird? How? Why do you think he did this? The author, who was then 10 years old, freed the bird. He did this because he did not believe that birds should be put in cages. So the next section is think and answer, and you can see this question. Do you think the parrot taught Aunt Ruby a lesson? Explain. So this one you can write in your own words. You can write your answer in your notebook. Do this as an activity now. Please pause the video, finish writing it and come back. Hope you are done with that. Now let me share my thought on this question. So do you think the parrot taught on Ruby a lesson? Explain. So I think the parrot taught on Ruby a fine lesson. She was very keen to teach the parrot how to talk, but the bird had taken an instant dislike to on Ruby and refused to learn. Birds are intelligent and the parrot knew she did not really have real affection for it. When Aunt Ruby failed in teaching the bird, she made faces at it and also said the words like can't talk, can't sing, can't dance. After the narrator released the bird and it came back on its own as it was missing green chilies, Aunt Ruby explained that the bird was missing her and that was why it had returned. The parrot flew out of her reach and said loudly, "You're no beauty, can't talk, can't sing, can't dance." Aunt Ruby became red-faced at the insulting words and dashed indoors. She was humiliated by the parrot. She learned a lesson of humility. So this is what I think about this question. Now, the next section is values and life skills. And let me read the question to you. In the story, the author finally gave the parrot its freedom. If you had been in the author's place, would you have left the cage door open? Give reasons for your answer. So this exercise is about decision making and empathy. What do you mean by empathy? You can say it is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. It helps us to see through someone else's point of view. This helps us in better connecting with them and to better understand their problems and help them solve any situation better. This will also help us in taking better decisions at the right time. So being able to synthesize also helps us in decision making. So in the story, the boy felt very bad to see the caged bird. He believed that birds do not like being caged and birds love freedom. They want to fly freely in the sky. So the boy was empathizing with the bird. He knew the bird hated his aunt and that he wanted to be free. So the boy left the cage door open and let the bird free. So in this section, a question is being asked there. If you had been in the author's place, would you have left the cage door open and give reasons for your answer? If it was you in the boy's place, would you have done the same? Think about it and give reasons for your answer. You can do this as an activity. You can note down your answer in your notebook. Please pause the video, finish writing your answers and come back. Hope you are done with that. Now, let me share my thought about the same situation. If I was in the boy's place, would I have left the cage door open? Yes. I would have left the cage door open. Birds are meant to be free and not to be confined to cages. The parrot loved and trusted the author and so flew back to the veranda to get some green chilies, but its natural habitat is the forest, garden or orchard where it can fly wherever it wishes. So children, I hope you're clear with all the questions we discussed today. We'll see the rest of the questions from the exercise in the next class. Till then, bye.